Hey guys, my name is XTI, and today we're actually going to be doing a quick PVE, thief guide, build, and rotation. Basically, how to do everything as a thief so you can make sure you're not squishy, you're not always dying in fractals, like I had a huge problem with. So since I finally figured out what to do and how to be truly effective in PVE, and even with more of a damaged build, I decided to share it so you guys can know, so you guys can, try it out and see how you guys like it. So let's go ahead and start off with the traits, and then we'll get into the runes and everything else like that in rotation. So you guys can know the whole thing of Thief PVE specifically. Okay. Now, we start off with Deadly Arts, Trickery, and Critical Strikes. Now, those are usually the best just to go with. Obviously, they're the most damage and everything else like that, but also they do provide a little bit of survivability, which is kind of weird. It doesn't really look like it, but, they do. There's a lot of damage, a lot of survivability in these builds, but we'll go over all, obviously, alternatives and everything else like that afterwards, if this may not work out for you. Now, with Deadly Arts, we obviously go with Mug because dagger training is okay, but since we're not really relying on poisons too much, or we don't have no condition damage, period, really, the poisons are really ineffective. Needle Trap, so the trap that mobilizes and poison foes when triggered, same thing. It's another condition damage trait. Since we're not in condition damage, it's useless. So the next only good thing that we can do is Mug, deal damage and gain life when stealing. This attack cannot critically hit enemies. Which obviously the healing isn't that crazy. The damage isn't that crazy either. It's just the only trait that's viable with our build, to be honest. Lotus Poison. Then we go to Reveal Training. Reveal Training is also one of the only ones out of this trait that we can use, but also is the best one regardless, so it doesn't really matter anyways. Panic Strike is for PvP. Strike a foe that is below the threshold, mobilizes them 50% for 2 seconds. Like I said, that's for PvP. You won't be needing that on PvE targets. Traps apply vulnerability to enemies and grant you might. Trap recharges are reduced. Now, most of the traps, like I said before, are condition damage. Most of them deal with bleeds. Oh wait, that's not a trap. Sorry, that's a trick. These are the traps. Here we go. So yeah, immobilize, poison. This just knocks them down. Set a trap that triggers. The trigger of this trap becomes marked. You may activate Shadow Pursuit to Shadow Step to the marked enemy. That's also for PvP. Not gonna really be doing that for PvE. And ambush. Set a trap that when triggered calls in a thief who attacks nearby foes for 20 seconds. That is, I guess, okay, but it's not worth the trait compared to, the other three that you gotta choose. To be honest, it's not worth it. Now let's go ahead and go into the next one. Expose weakness, deal more damage if your target has a condition. That's obvious. And these are where it kind of it's kind of more personal, to be honest. Executioner is obviously the best choice. When someone's below 50% HP, you do 20% more damage. That is amazing. It's an execution. You do more damage with Heartseeker. You get way up there. Improvisation, I would say that that's viable only depending on, I guess, on what you're doing exactly, and who you're fighting. Like, for example, I know some mobs, they do give you weaker stuff compared to other ones, like weaker steel points and steel skills and everything else like that. So it really depends. If you realize that, maybe I know this guy's going to give me a couple good, good stuff from me stealing from him, then you can also do this, so you can do it twice, which is awesome. Poison is increased poison duration. Poison deals increased damage, but obviously that's condition, and we're not going to condition. The next one is Trickery. Kleptomania, stealing gives you initiative. Haste. I personally have this over the buff because I'm selfish. to be completely honest, I'm kind of selfish, so that's why I did that. Now, the reason why I get this is gain haste when attacking a foe from behind or the side. So that's a 60-second cooldown. It gives you fury. It gives you quickness. And the thing is, I got that over this because of, where's the talent? This talent. No quarter. Now, I'll explain that to you in a second. But pretty much, when you first initiate the fury, even though it's 6 seconds, and, it's a 60-second cooldown for the buffs to come up, with this talent, you will literally never run out of fury. As long as you fight, you will never run out of fury. If you have enough crit, obviously. So if you crit all the time, if you have at least 50% crit, you'll never run out of fury. Ever. It will stay perma on you because of these two buffs together, which is awesome. Now, a lot of other people, of course, if you realize that your team isn't, really buff heavy, they don't have like a lot of buffs that they can give out and everything else like that, then you probably want to do Thrill of the Crime. So when you steal, you can get buffs, Fury, Might, and Swiftness, and give it to everybody else. Preparedness, obviously, that's the only choice. And then this is also another one where it's kind of up to you between Trickster and Bountiful Theft. Bountiful Theft, stealing grants you and all nearby allies vigor. You rip boons from your target and grant them to your nearby allies. And with Trickster, reduces recharge on tricks. Tricks remove conditions. Now, the only reason I say it's between these two is because, as you can see, I got the Dagger Storm. Dagger Storm, in my personal opinion, is really good. I usually only switch it off between the Thieves Guild and Dagger Storm, simply because Dagger Storm gives you stability, it does a lot of damage, spinning around constantly, it puts bleeds on, and cripples everybody. Now, even though, like I said before, since we're not going to be really concentrating on condition damage and bleeds and stuff like that, it's really not necessarily that great. But the reason why it's so good is because of how fast it stacks the bleeds. So even if, you don't have a lot of condition damage, just because of how much bleed stacks they'll have on them, everyone, you will still be doing a good amount of damage. Now, of course, after Dagger Storm, you can continue AoEing with Death Blossom, which would do damage and pit more stacks. And by the time that you do all that, they'll have a good amount of stacks where it's actually ticking off for a good amount of damage, which at the end of the day kind of makes it worth it. Now, the reason why Bountiful Theft is also good and bad is because you're going to be fighting a lot of minions that don't have buffs. So it would be useless. You're going to get Vigor from a couple different things. Yeah, you're going to get Vigor from that. And plus, Vigor is usually pretty wide range. Like, a lot of classes have Vigor. A lot of classes can give out Vigor. A lot of classes can do that. So it's not really that great. The main reason that it would be that, it'd be good is if you finally get a boss that has buffs, which there are some. So that's why I just kind of leave it as that. So if they do have it, I can steal it, pass it around, and everything else like that without having to worry about it. Excuse me. Pressure striking, enemies you interrupt are inflicted with torment. So that's not really good for PvE at all, simply because in most boss fights, you're really not going to be interrupting them all that often. And since we're not in condition damage, 3 torment is not going to be a lot. It's just that simple. It's not really for our build. You get lead strikes. And then here's another one where you can also decide on what you want to do. Gain initiative on swooping weapons while in combat, which it's honestly not that good to an extent, just because we're not going to be switching weapons that fast. Warriors switch weapons all the time, Mesmar switch weapons, and other classes switch weapons, but rogues really don't switch weapons that often. We're kind of just sitting there with our dagger, constantly just going through our rotation, trying to do damage. And the only time we'll really switch to our weapons is if we need to actually distance ourselves with a short bow and then do AoE or any long range skills like that. But otherwise, we're kind of sticking to one weapon at a time. Now, sleight of hand, stealing also dazes the target, reduces recharge on steal. Now, that is the only reason I got this, is because it would reduce recharge. Otherwise, if it just dazed them, once again, it wouldn't do anything, because most bosses, they have the stability and all those stuff like that allow them not to be able to get dazed. And then minions is nice to be able to daze them, but it's only for a second, and they just can't use skills. So they're just standing there for a second while you pound on them. It's not really that crazy. But since it reduces the recharge by 20%, it makes it the worthwhile out of all of these. Because the third one, Bewildering Ambush, Storm is clearing, Code of Flame Burn Brighter. Stealing also applies Confusion, which once again we're not going to condition damage, so it won't really matter. It doesn't do enough damage by itself to the point where we can do it without any condition damage and then have it worthwhile. So now for the last one, Critical Strikes, we get Keen Observer, and then now this is kind of where you want to go on these. They're both good in their own respect. Gain bonus critical hit chance when hitting a foe from behind or the side by 7%, which is nice. And then, of course, Flawless Strike, deal increased critical damage while your health is above the threshold. So that is also good. So you either get higher crit chance or you get higher ferocity chance, which obviously depends on you. If you decide that you can, you're gonna go kind of tanky, you know what you're doing a lot, and you're not really getting that much damage on you to the point where you're full health a lot of the times, then I perfectly recommend Flawless Strike so you can do extra crit damage since we do crit all the time. The harder you crit, the harder you hit. Period. Now, side strike is for people like me that like to constantly go in, hit them. I'll be standing in fire, beating the hell out of things, and try to teleport out last second. You know what I mean? Like I'm really in your face, beating the hell out of you kind of guy. So this is really good for me to be able to constantly, go on the side of them and get extra damage in my own personal playstyle. But that would be up to you between flawless strikes and side strike. Now, unrelenting strikes, of course, gain fury when you strike an enemy whose health is below the threshold of 90%. So that means we automatically get fury when we hit them from the side or behind, and then we get another set of fury when we hit them below 90%, which will definitely be able to happen simply because we're hitting them so hard from the start. Now, this is also another one that would depend on you. You either could go for Sundering Strikes. Critical hits have a chance to cause vulnerability. Or you can go for Practice Tolerance when gain ferocity based on your precision. They're both really good, but it's really up to you. And of course the party that you're going with. So for example, if you have a party that can apply vulnerability on the target really easily and you usually have a lot of stacks on them, it doesn't necessarily have to be 25. But if you do have a lot of stacks on that thing, then you don't necessarily need that because you're already getting easy stacks from other people. So then that's when you want to go into that. So your ferocity and your critical strike damage goes up higher, which is always what we want. We always want high crit chance and high critical damage chance, just so we can hit them really hard when we do crit. Since we do crit all the time, we're doing great DPS. It's pretty much how it works. And then this one is for ankle shots. This is for pistols. Another one for PvP. Critical hits with pistols and harpoons have a chance to cripple foes. Pistol and harpoon attacks deal increased damage to cripple foes. So, like I said before, this is for PvP. You're not going to be using a pistol like that in PvE. In my personal experience, I tried it, of course, and it just seems so much more bland. You seem like you have way more utility. You're more of there helping the team with your blinding and then all your other stuff like that. More of a I'm being a thief and I'm doing a whole bunch of damage, which I didn't really like personally. So I went with the increased critical strike damage so I can hit harder because I'm a thief. Of course, ferocious strikes gain increased critical damage against foes whose health is above the threshold. And now this is where it's definitely your choice. There's a lot of different things that you can do here that would obviously be viable, depending on how you play and, of course, your party, because both you have to take account into. Now, no quarter is what I was talking about earlier. Landing a critical hit while under the effects of fury increases the duration of fury. Gain increased fury while under the gain increased ferocity. While under the effects of fury. So you get 250 more ferocity while you're under fury. And because we get it from the start, we already have all that extra fury, and then we just keep hitting them. And every time we crit, it stays on longer and it gains extra time. So we, like I said before, gain ferocity, gain forever fury, which is 20% critical strike chance and 250 more ferocity, which will also help us out with everything with their damage. Now, let's go into the utility tree. The utility stuff, the skills, the stuff you're going to be smashing, you know what I mean? Now, for healing, there is a couple options. I personally went Hide in Shadows before, depending on the fractals and the dungeon and everything else like that, to help remove all the different conditions. I've done Withdraw before just because it's a nice, escape, and then plus it's a low cooldown for a heal. But what I personally see is that Signet of Malice is one of the better ones that we can personally get. Even though the initial heal per hit is really low, if you're sitting there auto-attacking and doing your rotation, you'll be able to get back into health. Now, what a lot of people obviously don't realize is that they can just keep Death Blossoming and then now completely heal up themselves. Like, if there's like a group of people and you're getting low, just Death Blossom between them. And then every person that gets hit will heal you in the Death Blossom. So you're just heal, 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 and like 3 of them will like get you almost full health because of how much healing it'll give you, which is really nice. Now, I personally got Shadow Return just because, like I said before, I tend to go all in a lot, and I tend not to pay attention. And I personally, in my kind of playstyle, I personally need that immediate getaway. I need to be able to, like, oh shit, I'm not supposed to be here right now, and then I can teleport, and I can get out of there really fast. And then plus, obviously, it's a really nice way of getting rid of conditions because it gets rid of 3 conditions when you teleport back. So it's a nice condition clear. It's a nice instant, oh fuck button. So it's pretty nice. I personally recommend it. Now, if you don't like that, there are other options that you can do. For example, you can do Shadow Refuge for your party. So if you're trying to go through a fractal raid or whatever else like that, and you're trying to avoid the mobs, or just get past sneakily, you can also do that for your team. It'll heal everyone, give everyone stealth, obviously, and you can progress. Now, that's not that many different choices we can really have. The other choice that I did have is Blinding Powder, just because that's also an oh shit button. Makes you go invisible easily, blind everyone around you, so in case they were swinging or doing spells, it will all miss while you're stealth, and then plus you can still get out of there. But like I said before, I just prefer the teleport. This one utility will be completely up to you on what you feel comfortable with or what you may think that you need. Now, like I said before, I don't personally think that you should get any poisons. The traps are kind of useless. There's a lot of useless stuff. What I do recommend that you do use, for example, in dungeons, fractals, and raids, if you don't want to use that teleport, is the smoke screen. Smoke screen is definitely a great alternative compared to Shadow Step, simply because of the combo field that you can do with it. So, for example, if you put down the smoke screen, let's just do it real quick. If you put down the smoke screen in a line, and then you Heartseeker through it, it stealths you. So that means that you can put this down in a boss fight or whatever else like that that's shooting stuff at you, Heartseeker through it, hit them with the Heartseeker, and you still be stealth. So don't forget that, because I used to have that problem a lot, where I'll just, spam Heartseeker on mistake, and then I'll Heartseeker her twice in stealth, instead of trying to do the actual backstab. But the whole combination with this is Smokescreen, Heartseeker, and then you go behind him and backstab, and you're doing a whole bunch of damage that way. And like I said before, the elite is kind of up to you. The only ones that I can see incredibly viable are the Thieves Guild, the Dagger Storm, and the elite you get from Daredevil, which is like the instant execute, which is not really that useful in PvE because you're not they don't get downed like that. You know what I mean? Like they die when you kill them. So it's not really that crazy useful unless you just want to run around and execute minions really easily. Then okay, but if you're trying to do like PvE stuff and be viable, it's not really that great. Now, let's go over to equipment. So, equipment is pretty simple for Thieves. Thieves, like I said before, depending on your playstyle and what you want to do, if you're going to go power and be a regular traditional thief, either with with the staff, dagger pistol, dagger, sword, whatever, if you just want to do damage, this is going to be your general outlook of what you need to get. Now, you're going to need you're going to need the Scholar's Rune. Superior Rune of the Scholar is by far absolutely needed. You need that. Just because it gives you so much power, ferocity, and then it gives you 10% damage while you're above the health threshold, which is phenomenal. It's really good. And of course, you're going to want everything that you get to be Berserker. You want power, precision, ferocity. Everything. Just so you can make sure you're hitting your absolute hardest when you are swinging. Okay? And that is, like I said before, a huge thing. So, I don't have any daggers to show you guys, but let me just show you the alternative. So let's just say, for example, you don't want something like this, or you don't really like it. Like, for example, this tree, some people may not like. I think Trickery is one of the most important trees just because it gives you extra initiative. It gives you, and lead attacks. Lead attacks is like the most important thing in this tree. Every time you use initiative, it gives you power for it. So in the max is 15% more damage. So that it's ridiculous. But let's just say if you wanted to switch, right? Other alternatives is not Shadow Arts. Shadow Arts, for some reason, is just a weird like supporty stealth thief. It's weird. It's not. It doesn't really do anything by itself. Like unless you're gonna be some weird. Because the reason why it does is not that good is simply because of revealed. Like you can't go stealth back to back to back to back. You have to stay out of stealth for a certain amount of time before you can go stealth again. So that's when the time obviously someone could just completely blow you up. So I personally don't like Shadow Arts. I would personally go Acrobatics if you wanted somewhere to go. Acrobatics is really good, gives you plenty of buffs, and buffs up your survivability a good amount. So let's see, the Expeditious Dodger. Gain swiftness upon dodging. Now here's where it's up to you. Instant reflex, gain evasion when struck while below the health threshold. So you get 2 seconds of evading all attacks. So that means no dodge can be applied on you. Nothing can hit you, which is great, 50%. So that means if you're obviously in a dungeon, you're getting nuked because you wasn't paying attention or did a big blast, you know that you're not going to get instantly one-shotted because it will pop that thing for you. So that's really nice. Gain vigor when using a healing skill. Since we have Signet of Malice, we're not going to be using that. Just because I'm not really sure if you guys know, obviously, but for ever who don't know, if you try to use the Signet of Malice or any kind of Signet healing skill, the passive is gone. So if I was to use this heal and I try to hit something, it would not give me the passive healing. And it's the same thing for the Warrior's passive heal. So that means you literally need to leave it alone. You have to depend on your own attacks and everything else like that to keep you up. Because the moment you use it, you gain a small heal and then you're screwed for a certain amount of time. Then it's not good. Now, pain response is what I personally recommend just because you will receive bleeding, burning, poison, or torment from something or another in Fractals, PVE, or out in the world. So it's really nice to be able to have the regen healing to be able to counteract any of the diseases, points, or, any of the condition damage. Gain vigor upon successfully evading attack. That's really nice. And So remove conditions when striking an enemy while your health is above the threshold. Just because of the conditions removed, it doesn't actually matter. Like, you're not going to be suffering weakness a lot. You're not going to be suffering vulnerability a lot. Confusion, maybe. Slow, no. You're not going to be suffering any of that in PvE anyways. PvP, that may be way more viable, but in PvE, it's completely useless. Successfully evading an attack while wielding a sword or a spear recharges steel by a static amount. Swords and spears deal increased damage. Useless. We're not using swords. Unless you are, cool. But we're not, so. Break stun and refill endurance when you are stunned, dazed, knocked back, pulled, knocked down, sink, floated, launched, or inflicted with fear. That's our only option. And honestly, it's the best one. If you get CC'd, you break out of it with a full endurance so you can start rolling again if you need to. The effects of vigor on you are enhanced. Heal yourself whenever you use a skill that uses initiative. Heal yourself for each point of initiative spent. Gain initiative and regeneration when you evade an attack. Cripple and chill apply to you have reduced effectiveness. Periodically ignoring incoming immobilized effects, becoming crippled instead. So obviously this is for PvP. The main choices you have is that Assassin's Reward and Upper Hand, and I had personally a question on which one it would be better. You know what I mean? Like, would it be better to just dodge and then gain a 6-second regen, or would it be able to be better to do an Assassin's Reward? But the thing is, Assassin's Reward is simply just better, because each point of initiative, you spend a lot of initiative doing a lot of things. For example, this is 6 initiative, so that means I'm getting 611 healing just for doing this skill. Never mind doing Heartseeker 300, 400, 300, and 6. So you're getting healed now for doing all of your skills while getting healed from the Signet of Malice, which of course will definitely keep you up. And if you ever decide, if you ever notice that you are getting low, just back up, drop a whole bunch of cluster bombs from your short bow, and then you'll get healed up pretty fast from those too. So that's why it would really be your decision. Other than that, guys, that was just a... Oh yeah, I'll show you guys rotation. I'm sorry. Well, I probably shouldn't go over there. There's a lot of people. Okay, so the rotation for a thief is pretty simple. You just go behind him. That's all you really do. Is just you just want to backstab as much as possible. So you go behind him, Phantom Strike. Oh, I missed. I killed him too fast. But you mainly just want to go behind him, Phantom Strike, and then and smack him in the back. Now, I usually, depending on what's going on and everything else like that, I usually get pretty high Phantom Strikes. Depending on who I'm fighting. That was just 3,000. So let me put this down so you can't shoot me. And then Heartseeker, Stealth, and then boom. And then do a couple spins to heal up. Oh, get him! I had 200s on me. Oh. Oh, he's blocking it all. But alright, guys. That was just a quick guide, obviously, to play the game. I probably shouldn't have picked the spawn area with a whole bunch of veterans and snipers everywhere. But that was pretty much the quick gist of it. Go for power. Go for precision and ferocity. I personally would go for the Berserker set, just because it allows you to crit harder. I got 49% crit chance, and that's not counting Fury or anything else. So it's definitely the best way to do it, guys. But anyways, if you like my stream, if you like my explanation, everything else like that, don't forget to subscribe. You know, there's going to be a PvP version next of Thief and everything else like that, and what to do and how to properly, you know, use your Thief in PvP. So be sure to check that out. Thanks, guys, again. I'll see you next time.